Hey everybody, it is Jason once again from the Texas Gun Vault 2, and I'm coming to you with another video today. You guys get a twofer, and I want to make a video about a reply to some comments in the previous video that I made today, because I want to tell you, some of you guys fell into my trap, and I set this trap intentionally already knowing what some people were going to say. But before I talk about that, I want to say I just got back from the range with this B&T SPC-10. Man, is this a super accurate and fun gun to shoot. It was awesome. The only thing about this that I think I might have a little bit of a hesitation with, and it's only because I've had one catastrophic failure with my B&T GHM9, where I guess it was an underpowered round, but it essentially blew out the case and the extractor and all that. I can tell you that running 10 millimeter in this thing is really awesome and really powerful, but I have a little bit of concern having it just be direct blowback. I really feel like this gun needs some type of locking system. I know that B&T is a very high quality gun company, but when I was shooting this thing, I kept going back to remembering what it was like shooting that GHM9 when it blew up. And I think having a 10 millimeter blowing up in your gun in your face is probably a lot scarier than a 9 millimeter. And I don't know. I mean, the gun ran great, super accurate. I know there's a lot of safety features involved. This thing is not going to go off out of battery, but you know, just one of those things I think about. It's why I really would like to have a locking system even in my PCCs. But anyway, let's talk about the trap that I set and you guys falling into it. Not everybody. Now, by the way, this is not to be mean or disparaging of anybody, because I wanted to have this dialogue. I want to make people think differently, because it's important if you're going to have a dialogue or a debate with somebody on the other side of an issue. I have found it is very effective for you to understand their perspective. You know, I've mentioned in videos in the past that when I was a lot younger, starting out in college, I did not have the same political philosophy that I have now. And that has helped me because I feel like I understand to a certain degree what the people that oppose me, the way that I used to feel, I understand how they feel. So in some ways I can empathize with them, and hopefully I can tailor arguments, discussions, debates, and present facts in a way that might reach them better because I understand their perspective. So what's the trap that I laid? In my last video, I gave 4 examples, or maybe it was 3 examples, of the concept of theory versus practice in various aspects of life. And one of those was a religious one. Okay, in fact, I think it was the first one that I talked about. And going into this analogy, before I even turned on the camera originally, I already knew what some people were going to say. And I was very specific with the wording that I used, because I'm very aware of the various translations of the Bible and the 10 Commandments and so forth. Now, the most common in the English-speaking world is thou shalt not kill, the one that I talked about. But I'm very aware that some translations, it's thou shalt not murder, which goes to intent. Now, the reason I used shall not kill in my video is because that has a very particular meaning versus murder. It can be very broad and requires interpretation. For some people, that is going to be a very black and white thing. Thou shalt not kill. For other people, you know, and I think they're trying to justify their positions, and they say, well, it's thou shalt not murder. It's different, right? It's intention. But for me, thou shalt not kill. And going to talk about what I believe when it comes, for example, I said about the death penalty, that the government has the ability and the power to take people's lives if they're adjudicated in a court of law of committing certain heinous capital crimes. they can be put to death. I am against the death penalty. I'm against it. So in my mind, in my personal view, and this is not a video about the death penalty, by the way, when the government takes the life of somebody, even if it's from a legal standpoint, in my mind, it's still murder. But for other people, it's not. So what was the trap that I laid? I wanted you guys to understand that when you say shall not be infringed, those words have particular meaning to you. But that might not be the same interpretation as other people. So for me, thou shalt not kill means something different than to you, thou shalt not kill. Or murder. See, for you, murder might be justified in a war, a battle, or even in the application of the death penalty. But for me, it's pretty much all the same. As I've gotten older, I'm not a pacifist, but I find that if we are going to go to war, or the police are going to use lethal force, or the state is going to take somebody's life in an execution, that rises to a very high degree of power and responsibility that must be justified beyond reason. But that's my personal opinion, okay? So when other people argue and say, shall not be infringed, what you don't understand, that to you, that means one thing. But to people that are anti-gun, it means something completely different. To them, they might actually believe shall not be infringed. But they believe that banning assault weapons is not an infringement. Banning a magazine that's over 10 rounds is not an infringement. So they're not breaking the Second Amendment. Because in their interpretation, using the same language as you, it has a very different meaning. But they will construe shall not be infringed, or the meaning of infringed, to fit their narrative and what is required for them to maintain their world view. And some of you, and I respect your view, by the way, I respect it. I know that they would say shall not murder, because they're going to need to justify their position, because maybe they believe in actions of the United States going after certain people around the world and essentially killing them, murdering them, bombing a coffee shop in some Middle Eastern town. You go, well, we got the terrorists. Yes, we killed 10 other people, but we got the terrorists, and that's justified in your mind. Or the state taking somebody's life, even if that person committed a heinous capital offense. But you feel morally obligated, therefore you must interpret these rules and these biblical laws to fit your narrative. And I'm not saying that's bad. I'm not saying you're wrong. I'm just bringing this up for dialogue purposes. So when you debate and talk to people that are anti-gun, and you say shall not be infringed, you have to understand that the word infringed might mean something completely different to them. And just yelling at them and saying shall not be infringed does not help your point and your side, and actually might reinforce their own positions. I think that's really important to understand in order to have dialogue. Words have meanings, but those meanings can change depending on perspective. But you also need to ask yourself, do you change the meaning of words to fit your worldview? So, as I said, once again, to a lot of you, shall not be infringed means something very specific. And people will say all gun laws are unconstitutional. But to some people, and some translations of the Bible says shall not kill, and that means all killing. But you're like, no, it might not mean all killing, means murder. Well, to some people, shall not be infringed says it's okay to ban this or that. And I'm not justifying it. The only reason I'm bringing this up is for you to be self-reflective and ask yourself, do you change the meaning of things to fit your worldview and your position? And is it fair that you can do that for yourself, but when it comes to other people that you might disagree with, they're not allowed to in your mind? As I said, this is just about dialogue and asking you guys to self-reflect. I'm not saying you're right. I'm not saying you're wrong. I'm not saying I'm right. I'm not saying I'm wrong. I don't have any answers. But I think in order to be effective communicators of the Second Amendment and to preach the gospel of the Second Amendment, the way that we choose our words, the way that we present our arguments must be well thought out and tailored in a way that will reach people who might not have the same understandings or definitions of words that you do. It doesn't mean that you can't change their mind, bring them into our side. But you need to understand the other side's perspective so you can engage more intellectually. So, you guys fell into my trap because I wanted to make this part of the video. I was going to wait until tomorrow, but enough people in my original video said something, so I thought it was worth it. So, think about that. Shall not kill, shall not murder, and shall not be infringed. They all have very specific meanings depending on the context and making it fit your worldview. So I'm curious what some of you guys are going to say in the comment section. And by the way, I think I have a really good topic for tomorrow's video. I think it's going to be on the NRA. I'm really excited about that because I want to talk about my perspective of the NRA, which I think you guys know, but how it changed over time and what the NRA is today and where it's going in the future, and how the future of the NRA gives the anti-gunners a false sense of hope and victory, which we can use to our advantage. So anyway, hope you guys are having a wonderful evening. And D, if you're watching, this gun ran awesome. But what do some of you guys think about my concerns about a direct blowback 10mm? Something pretty powerful, but something without a locking mechanism. So let me know what you think in the comment section below about anything I talked about. So as always, thanks for falling into my trap, and thanks for watching.